Welcome to the Deep Dive, your ultimate shortcut to being well-informed. In a world absolutely drowning in information, how do you sort through all the noise? How do you find what's actually essential? And, maybe more importantly, how do you sidestep those sneaky traps our own brains set for us? Today, we're plunging into a deep dive on the fascinating world of cognitive errors. We're pulling insights from a really powerful source, Rolf Dobelli's The Art of Thinking Clearly. This isn't just a book, really. It's more like a stack of insights, all distilled into actionable nuggets. Helps you grasp the systematic ways we deviate from logic, the ways we all stumble again and again.
Yeah, and what's truly striking, I think, is that these aren't just like occasional slips. They're routine, predictable patterns, almost woven into our thought processes. So our mission in this deep dive is to shed some light on the most common, the most impactful of these errors, give you the tools, maybe, to sharpen your own thinking.
All right, let's kick things off. Our first insight, it really makes you pause. Survivorship bias. It's a fundamental error in how we perceive success and failure. And frankly, it's why you might want to consider visiting a cemetery now and then.
That's quite an image, isn't it? It immediately makes you wonder, well, why does triumph always seem so much more visible than failure?
Exactly. The book gives this great example, Rick. This is the aspiring rock star. He looks around, sees successful musicians everywhere, TV, magazines, charts, you name it. And this naturally makes him wildly overestimate his own chances of making it big. It seems achievable. But the book points out that for every rock star on stage, the burial ground of failed musicians, well, it likely houses 10,000 times more people.
1,000 times. Wow.
Yeah. And you know what? No journalist is interested in the failures. So that massive cemetery just stays invisible, utterly invisible.
It's remarkable how pervasive this is, this bias, I mean. It's not just rock stars, obviously. The book really emphasizes, we constantly hear about successful authors, photographers, entrepreneurs, Nobel laureates, but we never hear about the countless people who tried and failed. Even something like the Dow Jones Industrial Average Index, that's a collection of out-and-out survivors, right? It doesn't reflect the vast majority of businesses that just, didn't make it.
Right. And this is where the real aha moment comes in, I think. Even if your success was pure dumb luck, just coincidence, you're still tempted to label similarities with other winners as success factors. But if you actually did visit that graveyard of failed individuals and companies, you'd probably find they all had those very same so-called success factors.
That's a sobering thought. And it extends into science, too. Think about how many scientific studies get done. If enough scientists look into something, a few studies are basically bound to show statistically significant results just by chance, even if they're false. Like those headline-grabbing studies, red wine and longevity.
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
Exactly. Those get popular. But the boring studies, the ones that show no link, even if they're correct, completely ignored.
So how do we fight this? How do we outsmart survivorship bias? The source tells us you have to do the digging yourself. Simple as that. It advises you to frequently visit the graves of once promising projects, investments, and careers.
It sounds a bit morbid, maybe.
It does, yeah. A sad walk, the book calls it. But one that should clear your mind, give you a much more realistic perspective. Okay, speaking of things that aren't quite what they seem, let's explore another common illusion, the swimmer's body illusion. Have you ever stopped to think, does Harvard really make you smarter? Or are those amazing abs actually from that new workout program everyone's talking about?
Right. What's critical here, the core insight, is our deep-seated tendency to confuse a selection factor with a result. Nassim Taleb, who's referenced in the book, he initially thought professional swimmers had those perfect bodies because they trained so much.
Makes sense on the surface.
Totally.
Yeah.
But then he realized his illusion. No, they are good swimmers because of their physiques. Their body type is a factor for selection. It's not the result of the swimming.
Okay. It's that classic correlation versus causation trap, isn't it? It's the same thing with models advertising cosmetics.
Exactly.
It's not the makeup making them look like models. They were, born attractive, and that's why they get chosen for the ads. It seems obvious when you put it like that, but we fall for it constantly.
It really makes you question things like higher education, doesn't it? The book points out MBA programs often highlight the higher incomes of their graduates. Makes sense, they want to sell the program. But it's crucial not to just swallow their statements wholesale. Yeah. Because the people who pursue an MBA are often inherently different to start with, maybe more ambitious, maybe from a different background.
Right.
And that income gap comes from loads of factors completely unrelated to the degree itself.
So the takeaway is, if you're considering more study, or maybe a new diet, a new exercise plan, do it for reasons other than just chasing a bigger paycheck or suddenly getting a perfect body. It might not work like that. The book also warns against advice from certain self-help authors. You know the type, maybe naturally cheerful people. They might be prone to this self-illusion too. Their happiness isn't necessarily caused by their method, but maybe it's why they came up with it in the first place.
The core advice from the book on this is, well, it's pretty blunt, but necessary. It says, be wary when you are encouraged to strive for certain things, be it abs of steel, immaculate looks, a higher income, a long life, a particular demeanor, or happiness. It just tells you basically, look in the mirror and be honest about what you see. Don't confuse the traits of successful people with the outcome of their action.
Good advice. Okay, next up, let's look at something really powerful, often invisible, but it influences our daily lives constantly. Social proof. This is the simple but actually quite profound idea that if 50 million people say something foolish, well, it's still foolish.
Right. This concept basically dictates that we feel we're behaving correctly when we act the same way as other people. It's a shortcut. The more people who follow an idea or do something, the more appropriate or true we instinctively think it is. It's deeply ingrained.
Oh, you see it all the time. You're walking down the street, see a group staring up at the sky.
You look up too.
You look up too.
Yeah.
Before you know it, your head's tilted back, or someone starts clapping in a concert, maybe a bit too early.
And suddenly the whole room joins in.
Exactly. Or you leave a tip at a coat check just because you saw others doing it, even if you know it's not really required. It's almost automatic.
There was that famous experiment by the psychologist Solomon Asch back in the 50s, showed just how powerful this is. A subject who didn't know everyone else was an actor would often give a clearly wrong answer to a simple question, just comparing lines, simply to conform with the group.
Wow. Even when they knew it was wrong.
Yeah. The social pressure was just too strong for many of them.
And you can see why, from an evolutionary perspective, right? Our hunter-gatherer ancestors. If the group suddenly bolted, you probably bolted too. That likely helped you survive.
Definitely.
The ones who stopped to question things, maybe exited the gene pool, as the book puts it.
A harsh way to put it, but yeah.
So this pattern is deeply rooted, even when there's no immediate survival advantage today.
So is social proof always a bad thing? Is it always leading us astray?
Not entirely. The book suggests, for example, if you're hungry in a foreign city, you don't know where to eat. Picking a restaurant that's packed with locals. That often makes sense.
Okay, yeah, that's social proof working for you.
Right. Using the wisdom of the local crowd.
But you have to be vigilant. Comedy shows, talk shows, they notoriously use canned laughter.
Oh, yeah.
They use it to incite you to laugh along. They're basically manipulating your social proof mechanism.
It's quite deliberate.
And the book also cites something more chilling. Joseph Goebbels' 1943 speech. He asked this huge crowd if they wanted total war.
Individually, anonymously, maybe many would have refused. But together, in that roaring crowd, swayed by everyone else, they shouted yes.
It's powerful stuff.
Okay, let's transition now. A really common trap, one that keeps us kind of tethered to the past, the sunk cost fallacy. Or, put more simply, why you really should learn to forget what's already gone.
Yeah, this one's dangerous, especially when we've invested a lot of something, time, money, energy, even love into a project or a situation. That past investment, the sunk cost, becomes a reason to carry on, even if, objectively, it's a lost cause. We just don't want to admit the effort was wasted.
Oh, it's incredibly relatable, isn't it? Like forcing yourself to sit through a terrible movie just because you paid for the ticket.
Guilty.
Me too. Or a company continuing a failing advertising campaign because, well, we've already spent so much money.
Right. Throwing good money after bad.
Or even staying in a really troubled relationship because, oh, but we've invested so much energy already. It's that feeling of, but I've come this far.
And if you look at the bigger picture, this explains some major historical blunders, like the infamous Concorde project.
Ah, yes, the Concorde effect.
Exactly. Both Britain and France kept pouring enormous sums of money into it, long after they knew it would never work economically. Why? Pretty much just to save face after all that initial investment. The Vietnam War is often cited as another sobering example, where the perceived cost of withdrawal seemed too high, partly because of the costs already incurred, despite the escalating human and financial toll.
So the book really encourages you to recognize those little phrases, those insidious patterns in your thinking, like we've come this far, or I've read so much of this book already. True rational decision-making, the book argues, means focusing only on the future costs and benefits. You have to completely forget what's already been spent It's hard, but liberating.
And there's a psychological angle often overlooked here. Consistency, well, it signals credibility, right? So admitting a past mistake, changing course, it creates a kind of contradiction that we find deeply uncomfortable. Abominable, the book says.
Abominable, wow.
So carrying on with a meaningless project or investment or whatever, it often just delays that painful realization that you were wrong.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. A really vital skill in our world today, drowning in information, discerning true knowledge. Dobelli describes this brilliantly with the concept of chauffeur knowledge.
Ah, yeah, this comes from that great story about the physicist Max Planck. Apparently, his chauffeur drove him to so many lectures that the chauffeur eventually memorized Planck's standard talk by heart.
No way.
Yeah, so one day the chauffeur suggests, hey, why don't I give the lecture in Munich? And Planck agrees, and the chauffeur does it, nails the lecture.
Amazing.
But then a professor in the audience asks a really difficult follow-up question, and the chauffeur, quick as a flash, says, oh, that question is so simple, I'll let my chauffeur answer it, pointing back at Planck.
Brilliant. And that's where the deeper insight lies, right? The book, drawing on Charlie Munger's wisdom here, masterfully distinguishes between real knowledge, the kind you get through genuine effort, deep understanding, real experience, and chauffeur knowledge.
Right.
That's the superficial kind. It comes from people who've just learned to put on a show. Maybe they're eloquent, maybe they look good, but they lack real depth. They're just reciting lines.
This raises such an important question for all of us, doesn't it? How do you actually tell the difference in daily life? How do you separate the real experts from the chauffeurs? The book suggests it's, well, maybe easier with news anchors. They're actors, period. Pretty straightforward.
Okay.
But it gets trickier with, say, journalists. The truly expert ones, the book notes, are usually the veteran reporters. The ones who specialize, who aren't afraid to highlight complexities, who talk about exceptions, not just the simple narrative.
And you see this same kind of superficiality, this chauffeur knowledge, all over the business world, too. CEOs are often expected to have that star quality, that charisma.
Yeah, the presentation.
Sometimes, perhaps, at the expense of genuine dedication and, quiet reliability. It's that illusion again, appearance over substance.
The absolute key advice on this, famously pushed by Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, is to stick rigorously within your circle of competence.
Circle of competence.
It means genuinely knowing what you understand deeply and, just as importantly, knowing what you don't understand. It's not about how big that circle is. That's not the point. The point is knowing exactly where the perimeter lies, being honest about its boundaries.
So, wrapping that point up, be incredibly wary of chauffeur knowledge. Always be on the lookout. The true experts, the people with real insights, they're comfortable saying, I don't know. They recognize the limits.
Exactly. They're not ashamed of it.
But the chauffeurs, they'll always have a line ready, always have an answer no matter the question. They bluff. Well, we've unpacked just a few of these systematic thinking errors that constantly nudge our decisions. From that invisible graveyard of survivorship bias to the critical importance of telling real expertise from fake.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot to consider.
It really is. And if we connect all this back to the bigger picture, recognizing these biases, it isn't just some intellectual game. It's the absolutely essential first step towards actually thinking more clearly. It's fundamentally about understanding how our brains are wired. They take these efficient shortcuts, right? Which were probably great for survival in simpler times. But they often lead us completely astray in the complex modern world our ancestors could barely have imagined.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, navigating your own choices, your own information overload? I think this deep dive into the art of thinking clearly really underscores that awareness itself is incredibly powerful. It's not about trying to become perfectly error-free. I mean, Dobelli himself admits he doesn't even try to live an error-free life. That's probably impossible.
Oh, that's unrealistic.
But it is about knowing when to hit the brakes, when to slow down your thinking, pause, and apply that more rational, deliberate lens.
Exactly. And remember that fantastic concluding advice from the book. Find out where your circle of competence is. Get a clear grasp of it. And the hint, it's smaller than you think.
Good reminder.
Yeah. If you face a consequential decision outside that circle, apply the hard, slow, rational thinking. For everything else, give your intuition free rein. Don't overthink the small stuff.
Perfect. Okay, a final thought for you to mull over as you go about your day. If our brains really are designed to make these systematic errors as predictable mistakes and recognizing them as genuinely hard work, What's the one small, deliberate change you could make today, starting right now, to think just that little bit clearer?